it does allow that kind of what's that called, like makes people feel a little bit intimidated when you fling a karambit like this. I mean, it's not really functional, but it definitely is kind of like, you know, twirling a switchblade. I really enjoy this 7-point format, and so I feel it helps me break down and evaluate the purpose and function of even something I've made. This knife making thing is still very much, I feel like I want to provide a solution in the tactical community for something that perhaps I see not addressed. Getting to this point has been a long journey, I would say, definitely. I previewed the NK Art Ambassador quite a few months ago, I think, before I left for Alaska. And just like with the Arbiter, you know, this thing took a lot of testing, a lot of, I had different versions of it, formats, shapes, sizes, and it was just, in the end, what happened is, as I made it and I used it daily and I carried it, I realized a lot about it, and that transfers into the final product. And when I was designing the Ambassador, the concept was basically, why do people carry a pry bar? When I was traveling in Japan, I had the Warren Thomas pry bar. The grind on it is a little bit higher on this side. You guys can see. The overall concept of it, really, it provided two things, okay? The first thing was, yes, it was something that wasn't a knife that you could carry on you in places where maybe a knife is not legal to carry. And it hasn't crossed that line of becoming a coup baton, which is also legal to carry in some places, or a spike, you know, which is more like a, you know, a very specialty item that you would throw. But it kind of was those things, and it was compact. It did fit in the pocket. It was a little long. It did have a little of a poke to it right here because these corners were a little pointy. But what was nice about it was that it was something you could clip on as a backup EDC. Because really, who would buy a $100 pry bar, $125 pry bar, and actually pry with it at work? You know, that's pointless. You could just go to Home Depot and buy a normal titanium pry bar with an actual pronged face for nails and stuff like that, and that would be more realistic. So this whole concept of it was really like, to me, you're buying this because you are an extremist. Maybe you like tactical gear. It's a special item. You put it in your bug out bag, and really the purpose of it seemed to be like self-defense, because pry bars that clip onto keychains obviously are just utility little tools, and even the best of them still bend under light use, because the way the prong towards the front just becomes too narrow and these corners bend out. But with having the pocket clip, it is something more tactical because you can actually carry it and deploy it from your pocket. So where I'm going with this is this experience of carrying this concept of a self-defense spike, I guess, pry bar in your pocket is not something a lot of people have had a chance to experience, because this was pretty much the only option out there. Some critics may say the concept of a tactical pry bar is useless, and I would say, in some ways, yeah, it's perhaps not necessary. It really isn't. But they do try to create this concept, for example, with tactical pens, tactical flashlights, and or a coup baton, which is, like I said, it's not legal to carry, and all these things. They try to provide a utility to the concept of basically something you strike someone with, an impact tool, but none of them are necessarily truly an impact weapon. And so this design, like I said, has gone through multiple stages, and kind of months of work. So at first, how the NK Ambassador really started was, it was this karambit. And you see the handle shape. And I was making this, and I thought, a karambit is pretty nice. It's a focus-built self-defense weapon tool. It has a point to hit them here. Obviously hook, control, those kind of concepts. Now here was then the step 2. Here was the sketch. And we ended up with me basically removing the karambit section, keeping the same kind of handle, and adding a pocket clip. This is just a rough prototype. So this one here is the prototype, and you can see some grind lines in the pocket clip. I was just assembling it, testing out where the position, the screw, the pin that's titanium in there to hold this pocket clip from moving around. At first was to create some points that were durable enough to actually pry with. And so what I had to do is I had to increase the width right there at the corners. So you can see, so that's why it's kind of cut at the angle. And being that it was supposed to be for striking, you know, I wanted some points there. I mean, they're sharp enough to like cut a piece of paper. Let's see, right? So it made a little. So it's enough to split paper decently. Let's see. But it's not like amazing. I'm just gonna open a box, but I mean, if you're looking for utility, that's about it. Really, what it was is a striking thing. And I tried on the second prototype, which will be the finished design, a G10 pocket clip. I'll show real fast. And that kind of provides some texture, maybe a little bit more style. But I have to feel that the titanium feels more sturdy, definitely. The retention on both is fine. The titanium offers more flex. And so I was just testing different cutout patterns for the best to hold in different pants and pockets of different thicknesses. And what I arrived on the final one, I like it. So really, as utility, then, I mean, you're not getting a lot of utility out of this thing. I mean, the best thing you can do is kind of split open boxes, and if you really want to pry with something that's over $100, you can go for it, but I would just say use a normal pry tool. Really, this is then for self-defense. So it doesn't really excel as, obviously, a utility tool. And the construction of it, though, like I said, is pretty strong. Obviously, it's from the testing, and this is all titanium hardware and everything. Now, as these months have passed, literally months now of just evaluating it, carrying it, testing it, you know, I went from this, you know, this karambit, which, you know, it was very focus built, to then this, which seemed to be maybe a little bit more, you know, maybe not practical, but a little bit more unique, you know. And but the thing was, this design didn't really have much of a striking point, and it wouldn't puncture animal hide. Also, because of the shape and the ergos of it, somehow it landed to where it is at an angle rather than sticking out like that way out of your palm, it kind of inward. And so those things had to be adjusted. And so as we went from this to this now, this was the final version. So here's the NK Ambassador, the actual finished design. Now, this top part was not intentional, but as I notice now, this kind of wavy pattern really does help the ergonomics, especially if you're holding it, you know, if you accidentally somehow grip it backward, however you're holding it, that helps keep it in your hand. And you can see key things were like a big finger hole. So this is a 1-inch finger hole so that it's easy to pull out and access. Glove work, you know. Trying to push it more towards the Kubotan, you see what I did then is I angled the pry bar. So rather than having it stick straight out, you can see now, and so now my friends and family and you know, associates, they're like, this is now too aggressive, because now it basically is a spike. I mean, and this is a kind of toned down version. I'll explain that in a second, but you know, this being compact, it's nice because as opposed to being the length of the Warren Thomas and Warren Thomas's point, having specifically these weaker corners, I took the corners off so that wouldn't poke. And this one you can see is damaged because I've been using it and dropping it, and then I re-blasted it, so you can see there's lots of damage right there. So you can see when you clip it on the pants, there's like kind of a couple steps. I mean, there's that first, the initial two, and the third one is really where it's strong. And once it's in, you can see how it just lays very flat. I haven't had no problem with it poking in my leg. This point is a little aggressive, but I don't have to put it there, and I can make it less aggressive. But as it is, it's just this little profile object. Now, you can see when you grab it though, you know, I have the option, if I miss the hole, to still pull it out like this. And then you still have basically something you can jam into someone's tricep, you know, at the same time, you know, strike someone with on the back here. So for example, if you're in a chokehold, well, if someone's choking you from behind, you pull it out, you can drive this into their tricep, forcing that muscle reflex for them to release. And then at the same time, you can stab them in the ribs with this side. And then you can see then obviously with the finger hole, you can just, and then you're ready to go also. Punching them in the side with this 4 millimeters, and that point would create like a hole, or at least a fracture in the bone. At the same time, again, you know, if you hit them in the leg, hit them in the neck, these 2 points, basically it is a fighting weapon. And it doesn't feel super aggressive. It does feel, how I say to me, a little bit mellowed out, a little bit neutral, but it is purpose built. And if we put it now in the right pocket, like I said, these are thin pants, and I've tested this on thick pants. I mean, you might have to really try to put it in, get it to go over that ridge right there, that seam, but it'll still work even on some of the most ridiculously made pants and shorts. You see, this way, you still pull it out and fight like this. You see? So you can hold it in many different ways. I mean, your hand can move around, and you can see it's got quite good ergonomics. I really enjoy this, and so again, you can stab someone with it, hit someone with the backside with it, and so really left, right hand, it does provide a lot. So the deployment of it is very, I would say, versatile, and and being the fact that you can just carry it in your pocket, it's just so convenient, and now as the performance, obviously you can puncture, punch, put pressure. Get them in the eye, like I said, dig it into their tricep, dig it into the back of their hand. It definitely is almost like a grappling tool. Definitely would do very well in a grappling situation. It's very lightweight, which is good since this is just a backup, and you don't really want it to be like, wearing you down. The grip really, to me, is excellent. The different just positions you can hold it, it's very good. And like I said, it's a focused self-defense EDC. It's non-lethal, but I would say at this point you're pushing it. So as I was making this review and writing down all these points, there was something I realized that, correct, I mean, the performance in utility and the performance in CQC is really only limited by the imagination, I guess, the customer's preference. Being that I can make it thicker if they really want to pry with it. So that it'll help improve its score and excel in that category. But now if we were saying, like I was thinking, since this is supposed to be like a self-defense, kind of say weapon, what could you do to improve it besides doing that? So it clips on your pocket, so it's in your pocket, clipped to your pants, so that makes it legal. But it's a karambit, so it's focused specifically. It has two edges, and it's made specifically for fighting. It has that side for punching, this side for same things as this. All the impact essence, the same handle, all the impact features. But then now with this aggressive pointed tip and blade. And perhaps I'll put like a static core, so when you pull it out, it'll just pull the sheath off. I might do a little wave feature on the sheath, I haven't decided. But then it provides options because I can produce this where you could clip it into your MOLLE strap gear and then have it carried. You could clip it onto your gear through the pocket clip. You could have different ways of carrying this in pocket, on your belt, with a belt clip to the sheath like this, or just the sheath in pocket and basically concealed, in essence, this kind of flat, slim profile focus built. Obviously kind of karambit. It's hard to explain because that's why I like this now so much, is through going from the phases, the steps, looking at the Arbiter as a multi-function, like just the variety you can get out of this little tiny thing, what you can do with it. That is what really spoke to me on this design, and why I think it's probably such a good seller too. Is just it does have a lot: neck knife, belt knife, so many options. And like I said, I wanted to build something specifically built for maybe combat, something for fighting. You try to think compactness and just function. I talked about torquing forces using a karambit, and like I said, so I tried then an impact tool. And as it kept progressing and progressing, it ended up like this. And this, to me now, what this is basically another platform. So basically, whether this is there or not, what happens over here, and the shape somewhat of the little embellishments. This platform, this area right here, is something I can then manipulate. If someone wants, I can make it basically like a karambit, like this. I like it because it does multiple things, just like the Arbiter, and I can do multiple things with it. So it's kind of always fun and creative for customers and myself to try different new things. Knife making at this point right now is for me providing solutions. I started a YouTube channel. I started into knives because I was looking for tactical solutions. So here you can see in the background, that's kind of the evolving history of this karambit style concept, this utility pry bar. I mean, it's so many ideas in one, that just ended up becoming this. So that's like kind of the history of this. It wasn't just overnight. It's not just, it has a specific purpose. So you can see overall, there is bevel work all over it. Bevel work in the finger hole. I did these screws. Again, the titanium, the hardware has to be just kind of worked on. And then I just did some basic techniques, just simple stuff. Like I said, originally this was it's still going to be for charity, but as I have on all these different versions and stuff, you know, it's going to be a unique item. Like I said, something that I'm not going to take max orders. I'm not going to continue allowing orders for them. I'm going to try to limit the amount of orders. You know, as I receive them in order, you know, I'll take down your order, but I'm not going to make you know, just continue to make them as in like the Arbiter. This is a specialty item, something that I feel I have some moral obligation to also limit who has one, especially the karambit version. But in terms of like the safety version, the more toned down pry bar version, it is still, I'll make them, especially depending on the case scenario, if the person's on deployment, what they're using it for, you know, because it was designed for fighting. And because of that, I don't want it to just be some mass-produced thing. And I do want it to specifically focus on helping me get towards being that child ambassador goal. I have so many projects on the way. Like this then is like a full-on crazy. I was like, let's just go. I mean, if it's going to be for fighting, it's going to be karambit. Why not just go the full length, the full, all the way, and make it a beast? And so you can see here, this thing is huge. It is mean.